Hey everyone, welcome back. This is chapter 3. I called it The Cost of Avoiding Myself. So, welcome back to Raw. No masks, no excuses. Today I want to talk about something that took me a long time to admit. Avoidance has a cost, and eventually every one of us pays it. For years, I thought I was protecting myself. I buried my emotions. I distracted myself. I kept telling myself that if I just kept moving forward, eventually everything would just work out. But it didn't. Looking back now, I can honestly say that I wasn't running from other people. I was running from myself. My drinking wasn't just affecting me. It was affecting the people I love the most. And because of my drinking, my behaviors, and the resentment that built over the years, I lost my family more than once, and that's not something I'm proud of. It's something I have to own. And one of the hardest things for me to accept was knowing that my son lost some of the stability that every child deserves. That one hurts, because I know what it's like to grow up without stability. I always told myself my son would have something different. I wanted to break that cycle. And instead, because I hadn't healed my own wounds, I repeated parts of it. And, for years I spent time people pleasing just to feel accepted, trying to fit in, looking for validation from everyone except myself. I always worried about what other people thought of me instead of asking who I really am. I didn't realize it then, but those wounds started way long before I ever picked up a drink. And until I faced them, I kept carrying that pain into every single relationship I had. That realization broke me. I also lost the woman I loved. For a long time, I wanted to blame circumstances. And today I know better. The truth is, I was carrying wounds I had never dealt with. And when you're empty inside, you'll look for anything outside yourself to fill that emptiness. I sought validation in places I never should have. Not because I didn't love, but because I didn't know how to love from a healed place. I was looking for someone else to give me what I had never learned to give myself. And the guilt that came afterwards, I can't even describe it. It's like waking up every morning with 1,000,000 pounds on your chest, a pit in your stomach, that feeling, knowing I had become someone else I never wanted to be. And then there was shame. Living in a small town, people know your story, people talk, some of the stuff they heard was true and some wasn't. But honestly, that didn't matter. Because the person judging me the most was myself. There was days I didn't even want to leave my apartment. I wanted to hide. I didn't feel like answering questions. I didn't want people looking at me. I just wanted the pain to stop. And looking back now, I can see something I couldn't see then. It was never about the alcohol. Alcohol was just a bandage. Validation was just another. Gambling was another. And for years I chased anything that can give me a temporary escape. A temporary high or a hit of dopamine. And that feeling that just maybe one day I'd feel okay. I gambled amounts of money that still make me shake my head today. And I thought maybe the next big win would change everything, but it didn't. The next drink didn't fix me. The next win didn't fix me. The next distraction didn't fix me. The next relationship didn't fix me. Because none of those things were ever the wound. They were just bandages. And here's one of the biggest lessons I've learned. The addiction is not the wound, it's the bandage. And, you can remove the bandage, but if you never clean the wound, it never heals. So that's exactly what happened to me. And, I had stopped drinking. It's been 2 years. I talked about that in my last chapter, but I didn't heal. So all that pain I spent years avoiding was still there, just waiting for me in the background. I remember sitting alone in my apartment one night, and my circle had become very, very small. I wasn't drinking anymore. I wasn't out chasing distractions anymore. It was just me and my thoughts. And, I even deleted all my social media, not because it was bad, but because there was too much noise, And for years I'd been consuming everyone else's lives while avoiding my own. And scrolling became another distraction, just another way to escape. And I needed silence. I needed real silence. Because when the noise disappears, you're left face to face with yourself. And I'll be honest, that was terrifying. It was super terrifying. But it was also the moment the real healing began. And, that's when it finally hit me. I can meet someone new. I could find a new job. I could move somewhere else, but I could start over 100 times. But if I didn't change what was happening inside me, every new beginning would eventually become the same ending. And the faces would change, the places would change, sure, but the patterns would stay the same. And that's when I realized that change wasn't optional anymore. I wanted a different life. I wanted to become the father my son deserved. I wanted to wake up, look in the mirror, and be proud of the man that was looking at me. And yes, I wanted another chance with the women I loved, but somewhere along the way I realized that, real change can't happen because you're trying to get someone back. It has to happen because you're becoming someone better. And whether they come back or not, that was one of the hardest truths I ever accepted. And healing is not something you perform. It's something you commit to. And quietly, consistently, every single day. I'm still not perfect. And I still carry a lot of regret. There's conversations I wish I could do over. There's moments I wish I could take back. But I can't. None of us can. So what can I do? I choose who I become today. And, if you're watching this and you're carrying guilt, if you're hiding from your mistakes, or if you convinced yourself that you're too far gone, I want you to hear this. Okay? You're not defined by the worst thing you've ever done. But you are responsible for what you choose to do next. And I'm not sharing this because I'm proud of the mistakes I've made. I'm sharing this because for years I wish someone had been this honest with me. Someone who wasn't pretending to have it all figured out. Someone willing to say, I fucked up. I hurt people. But I'm doing everything I can to become a better man. So If my story helps one person put the bottle down, or walk away from gambling, stop chasing validation, or finally have the courage to finally face the wounds they've been avoiding, then every uncomfortable conversation, every judgment, and every vulnerable moment will have been worth it. So that's why Raw exists. That's why I created this, Not because I've arrived, not because I'm healed, because I'm still healing and it's going to be a lifelong journey. But because healing is something I'll choose for the rest of my life, every single day. And remember this, the addiction is not the wound, it's the bandage. Okay? Until next time, no masks, no excuses. So next week, I'll release chapter 4. It's called The Night I Surrendered. So I look forward for you guys to see that. And chapter 5 is called Spirituality Didn't Save Me. And number 6 is one I'm really looking forward to share with you guys. It's meeting my inner child. So stay tuned and thank you. Have a good day.